Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Your Overseas Home webinar, where we'll be focusing on fractional ownership, which is also known as co-ownership. Fractional ownership, it's an innovative way of making luxury property more affordable by allowing a group of co-owners to share all the costs. That's both upfront costs and the ongoing costs. It's fair to say it's a sensible option for people who want an upmarket holiday home that they can enjoy a few weeks each year, but without forking out the full asking price for a property and having to cover all the running costs and bills. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to hear about some glorious fractional ownership properties that are available right now in the Italian region of Campania. So my name is Richard Way. I'm a member of the Your Overseas Home content team, and I'll be hosting this session. It's great to have you all with us. That's whether you're watching live or you're watching the recorded version. So let me introduce today's specialist. This is the person who's going to be providing us with all the valuable information, and that is Nigel Carley from the Pinelli Group. Hi, Nigel.
Hi, Richard, and hi, and thanks for you all taking time to come to the webinar today. And for those looking in the future, I hope you enjoy the recording.
Great, thank you very much. I'll let Nigel say a bit more in a minute himself, but very quickly, Nigel set up and runs a company called the Pinelli Group with his wife Dawn, and together they've created a collection of beautifully restored character properties in Campania. Is it Campania or Campania? Let's get that right.
Campania.
Campania. Okay. And each of these properties, they're available to co-own as part of a fractional scheme.
Correct.
So we're going to learn all about that. Just as a quick guide to the format of this session, we've got about 30 minutes. We can go over a bit, that doesn't matter. And we're going to do a question and answer format. So I've got some questions, and I'm going to run through some questions for you, Nigel, and we're hopefully going to cover off all the key points about fractional ownership and your products, Pinelli Group products. But we also want to hear from the listeners, from our audience today. So hopefully our conversation will trigger some questions for Nigel if you haven't got any already. To ask a question, please use the questions tool, which you should be able to see on your dashboard. And if you just type your questions in there, and then I'll field them to Nigel. So Nigel, it's a great opportunity having you here. Thank you very much. So let's make use of having him here to answer questions. Just to start then, Nigel, do you want to just tell us a bit more about the Pinelli Group, your affiliation to Italy? You've just been telling me about how you first started going over there, and Campania, and how you came to create your fractional properties. What drove you to do that?
Pleasure.
And then we'll get into the nitty-gritty.
Well, I've been very lucky that I've had a love affair with Italy now for over 50 years, and it started when I was a lad around 18, working for an Italian car manufacturer called Alfa Romeo. And every year they used to send us over to Italy for training and product assimilation. And as a young lad being paid to go to Italy, that was quite an experience. And they used to send us to Milan and to Naples. And gradually I really got the opportunity to see Italy at first hand, and suddenly realized that Italy wasn't as expensive as perhaps I'd always thought it was. And I'm sure if you went up to 10 or 100 people in the street and said, name me your top 5 locations, Italy might be number 6. Spain's going to be first, and then Portugal, and so on. But why Italy? So I had a love affair with Italy, and I've had the opportunity of, visiting just about every single one of the different regions. And Campania was a bit undiscovered by me. And like so many tourists, I didn't really know where Campania was, and I thought that Italy stopped at the Amalfi Coast and then started again in Sicily. And those little hidden counties, regions in between the Amalfi Coast and Sicily, are perhaps some of Italy's best kept secrets. We're lucky that we enjoy over 300 days of sunshine every year. It's on the edge of tourism, so it hasn't had the overdevelopment that some areas of the Mediterranean countries of Spain, Portugal, and indeed in northern Italy. So we've got great climate, great people, great scenery, and just about everything you would want to expect or see from Italy. So as retirement started to loom on me, I'm 70 in March next year, so 10 or so years ago, as the prospect of retirement was coming, I wanted to do what I'd seen so many other people do, and we've seen TV programs now, I bought a village or restoring chateaus and all that stuff. My dream was to find an old house in the country and restore it. And when I arrived and started to really dig down deep into what was available, I was quite astonished at the amount of beautiful old properties that were just being ignored by the local population. They weren't interested in restoring old properties. They were just interested in building concrete boxes and putting a roof on the top. And then suddenly it dawned on me, there's got to be lots of people like my wife and I who were chasing the dream, the aspiration of owning a property abroad. And I thought, well, if we want to do it, and there might be lots of others to do it, maybe there's a way we can share in the cost of doing it. And in so doing, maybe go for something a bit bigger than first we thought. Not necessarily bigger in building, but a bit more land and somewhere to put a swimming pool, and maybe it's a bit closer to the coast, because the closer you get, the more expensive it is. And that's where the concept of fractional ownership began. And if I know you've got lots of questions for me, Richard, but if I can just summarize it, every single...
my next one is going to be how does it work, this idea of fractional ownership in terms of the structure of the purchase? And because, one thing everyone has when they buy abroad or anywhere is they want to know that it's a secure process structure, that their investment's safe, and it's something that's going to work well for them. So just tell us, the basics.
Well, there's three important parts of that question which will demonstrate simplicity and security, because they are very, very important things. The first is that every property that we offer for sale on fractional ownership is owned by an individual standalone UK limited company. And that's a non-trading company. And it's important it's non-trading because if a company cannot trade, it can't incur debt, it can never go bust. So a UK company is created specifically to own a property. That company pays all of the necessary taxes, duties, and dues that are required for a non-national buying a property. And in Italy, those costs can rise to around 20%. So whatever price you negotiate to buy a property, you've got property land tax. In England, we call it stamp duty. Various countries call it different things. But in Italy, it's 10% as a non-resident. Then you have estate agent fees. And in Italy, whether you're a buyer or a seller, you can pay up to 4% commission to the estate agent. So there's 14%. And the extra percentages are down to whether you're using or how you use a notary, how you use a surveyor, how you use an architect. But a sensible, prudent budget should be 20% of whatever the negotiated price is to buy a property. That's already done. The limited company does all of that and has bought the property. And then we divide that limited company into 12 equal shares. So 12 people can each buy a share in the company that owns the property. The property never gets sold again for eternity, ever. The shares might be bought and sold, and we'll come on to that a little bit later on. And interestingly, in the last 10 years, we've never had any more than 8 owners for each property, even though there are 12 shares, because some of our North American owners choose to buy multiple shares to allow them longer periods of exclusive occupancy. Mm-hmm. What we always encourage every single one of our owners or potential owners, once they understood the principle and the finances, and they come and visit the properties on a discovery visit, and again, that's something we could talk about, we always recommend they carry out their own due diligence by a specialist law firm that understands the concept of fractional ownership. They will check out the title deeds of the property, that all taxes have been paid, that the UK company is, as I've described, as a debt-free standalone company. So I always say to people, there's two ways to buy a second home abroad. But the first question people should ask themselves is, how many weeks a year or months a year do you think you might be using the property? If you're buying a property abroad to go and retire and live there permanently, fractional ownership is not for you. It's the wrong decision. But if you are a person or a couple or an individual considering buying a second home, a holiday home abroad, then most people work, they're employed, most of them. Some people are lucky, they're entrepreneurs, they run their own businesses. But it doesn't matter who you are, most people don't get more than 4 or 5 weeks, 40 days a year vacation time. That's it. So why invest 100% of your available capital or leveraged or borrowed capital into something you can only use a fraction of a year, yet be responsible for 100% of the maintenance and upkeep? Turn your thinking upside down and invest a fraction of your available capital into something you can use 100% of your available time. And the interesting thing is, there are potential savings from taxation. We did an analysis after the budget when we all realised that on second home ownership, the stamp duty was going up and the periods were coming down, and there was all sorts of shocks in the budget. And we did an analysis on a property cost of £600,000, and we did a test ownership over 5 years and assumed a flat rate increase at 5% each year. It might go up, it might go down, but let's just use a flat line 5%. On whole own ownership with the new taxation regimes, you'll end up losing around £30,000 at the end of the 5-year period. That's it, because of the increase in SDLT, stamp duty. On fractional ownership for the same property for 4 weeks exclusive use a year, and I used £200,000 as a share price. There are different prices, but I went for the top one. At the end of the same period, assuming the same increase in property growth, you'll end up actually making a profit of around £50,000 or £60,000 for 2 reasons. One, we can demonstrate historically that our share prices go up every year. And number 2, if you've got £600,000 and you put it all into a property, it's all gone. If you've got £600,000 and you only use 200 of that into the same property for the same amount of time you use it, you've got 400,000 spare. And if you speak to a good financial advisor or wealth manager and invest that money wisely, that capital will still be there in 5 years' time, and it's grown. So there is a real seismic change happening in second home purchases. And we can all remember years ago when we first saw Amazon come onto the scene, everyone said, it will never work. Nobody's going to buy stuff online. It's a flash in the pan. And look where we are today. And I think the same thing is going to happen with second home ownership. It just makes financial sense to really consider where you're going to use all of your capital. So, sorry, long answer to a short question, but
no, that's all very interesting. Thank you.
It's fully checked by lawyers, and the lawyers who will act independently for the owners to corroborate everything that I've just said.
Okay, so just picking up on the, you mentioned the costs, that all the purchase costs are covered when you set the company up buying the property. So the costs to a co-owner who's coming to buy a share to you today is what, a one-off cost to buy that share of the company, and then they might have their legal fees as well, but they're not going to pay other taxes and.
Because you're buying a share in a company that owns the company that owns the property has already paid all of the relevant taxes, charges, stamp duty, legal fees, etc., and owns the property.
Yeah.
You're then buying a share in the company that owns the property. Under UK HMRC legislation, when you buy a share, whether it's in BP, Tesco's or the Pinelli Group, you have to pay 0.5% stamp duty. So, for example, on a £50,000 property, you'll be paying £250. A £50,000 share. Legal fees vary, but you'll be looking perhaps a maximum of £1,000 to £1,500 for a full supported legal service.
Yeah. Okay. And presumably, because you're not having to go through a whole conveyancing process, the process of buying your share, your co-ownership share, is quicker as well, and with less hitches or less.
We try to work with the legal firm that represents our buyers by creating what we've called a digital vault. So the lawyers acting for our buyers have access to all of the records of the property, the planning permission, the plans, the land registry title deeds. In Italy, that's called cadastali, but it's similar to England. So locked within that digital vault are all of the documents, and the process is very straightforward. It's a standard Law Society UK Company House share purchase agreement that the lawyers would analyse after checking out the due diligence, and from saying yes to being able to use the property can be as short as 14 days. That's it.
Brilliant. Okay. I've got to ask you this because there will be people thinking, comparing this to probably timeshare, which is, it's a swear word in some people's worlds who've had bad experiences of it, and doesn't always get used, in a good way, although it does work for a lot of people, especially in America. But just tell us the main difference between this and timeshare,
sure,
for our audience.
I'm delighted you've asked the question because it's an elephant in the room. So let's get rid of it. It does what it says on the tin. Timeshare is exactly that. You don't own the asset. You don't own part of the asset. You are buying time like a club membership over the period of your lifetime. And in some, not all, but certainly the majority of timeshare schemes I've seen, when you die, your membership dies with you because there's nothing to pass on. There's no asset. Fractional ownership does what it says on the tin. You are owning part of the asset with up to 11 other co-owners. So as such, it becomes part of your estate. You can leave it in your will to your dependents or children, and you're at liberty to sell the share at any time you wish, for any price you wish, without any early settlement penalties or cancellation clauses. Just the same as if you were to own a share in BP or Tesco's or Boots. Is exactly the same.
That's a timely thing, because we've just had a question from Hugh. What is the process if he wants to sell? He decides to sell his share in 3 years' time. What is there a process? Is there a system set up for promoting it to new owners, or how does it work?
There is. Because we only have a maximum of 12 shares in each property, that's quite a low number. And if you recall, I said that historically we've never sold to any more than 8. So because of conversations like I'm having with Your Overseas Home and other mediums we advertise in, we often have more clients for a particular property than there are shares available. So we maintain an active database for any potential future resales. We always say to our owners, as and when and if you're ready to sell your share, come to us first and we'll assist you, because we've got a very active database, and we charge a complete legal and administration fee of 5% of the future selling price. To give you an example, Casa Tremonto, one of the properties that we sold out, I think it was December 23 is when we sold it out. So a year ago next month. When we first started selling shares in that property in September 21, they were 150,000 a share. And the last share was sold in December 23 at 217,000 a share. That's how much they went up. So Anybody that wants to buy, if we have one of those clients that put their share on the market, we would strongly advise them to put it on current market value, 217, and then we would charge a complete legal and administration charge of 5%. Very
okay.
easy. There is one caveat that written into the shareholders agreement, owners' rules and regulation, is a clause that says, as and when you want to sell your share, you must offer it to the other shareholders first, because the likelihood somebody is enjoying themselves and wants to have more weeks.
I was going to say that's probably your first port of call, isn't it? Yeah. Just while we're talking about the actual shares and the time they get to use, just tell us about how the time is divided up. So you've got 12 owners, 12 shares. That equates to what, 52 weeks a year. Do you do it by weeks or days?
Yeah, we do. Each share is worth, or each share gives the share owner entitlement to 4 weeks of exclusive use each year. That's not shared with other people. That's 4 weeks private exclusive use at the property, whether it's an apartment or a villa. 12 owners times 4 weeks is 48 weeks. Okay?
Yeah.
What happens to the other four weeks? Well, the Pinelli Group retains the 13th share in that property for 3 important reasons. One, in the case of people having something happen in the next year. My daughter suddenly announced she's getting married. We can't use one of those weeks. Can we swap and exchange? So by the company, the Pinelli Group, keeping 4 weeks, we have those as like an exchange buffer program to help our owners. Number 2, should any significant maintenance be needed to the property in years to come, those, and it causes the property to be closed. We need to renew the air conditioning, or we need to retile the swimming pool, or whatever it might be. Then that maintenance will be carried out in the 4 weeks the Pinelli Group have, so as not to cause interruption and a break in enjoyment for our owners. And the third reason is we like to put our money where our mouth is and have the same skin in the game as our owners. By us retaining a share, we're not a developer that develops a property and disappears. We've got a vested interest in that property as well. So 4 weeks a year. How do people choose their weeks? That's probably the most important question everybody asks us. Those 4 weeks are broken down into two-week periods. Every year, and in fact, we've just finished it. We normally try and finish it by the end of November. Every October, November, we start sending out emails to our owners to say it's time to start thinking about when you want to use the property in 2025. And in share number order, starting at 1 and finishing at 12, we asked owners to choose their first 2 weeks. That goes into a simple Google Calendar. Once it's the first run is done, we then send the calendar out, but this time in reverse order, starting at number 12 and going down to number 1. So that means everybody has a fair and equitable opportunity to find their weeks. And every following year, the priority order starts to rotate. So in year 1, it's 1 through 12. In year 2, it starts at number 2 and it finishes in number 1. Year 3, it starts at number 3. So everything's constantly rotating. And we are really, really happy and confident, and we can say that in the last 8 to 10 years, we've never had an owner be disappointed with the weeks that they have available to choose from, because people's mindset changes. When we book holidays, and I'm sure, Richard, you do it and I still do it, you look at where you want to go and you look at the prices. Is it low, medium or high season? That's how we've always been used to booking holidays.
School holidays.
When you become the lucky owner of a second home, that mindset changes, because you actually want to try and enjoy it at different times of the year to experience what goes on throughout the year. And we found this in the time we've been lucky to spend in Italy. There's just as much fun and games go on in January, February, March as does do in July, August and September. The only advantage is in January, February, March, there's less tourists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's how it works. It's a dead simple carrot, and with
Sounds very fair.
it is fair and it's equitable, and
Yeah.
people who hold multiple shares will have their links together, so they can choose 4 weeks at a time or 6 weeks at a time. We've got a lovely couple staying in Italy at the moment. Probably I have the fondest connections with these guys. JR and Denise, he's 75 or 76, and Denise about the same age. He's a retired US Navy captain, and he was the guy that joined the Top Gun school. He was one of the very first Top Gun pilots. Wow. And he and his wife own 3 shares in one of our properties. So they have 12 weeks a year in Italy in 2 6-week periods, because they live in San Diego. It's a very long way for them to travel at their mature age. So you pay your money and you take your choice. But that's how the system works.
Okay. And just thinking about that, I imagined it, because a lot of second homeowners, when you own a property abroad, you kind of feel not pressured, but you think, I've got this place there, I need to use it. And that's where you'll tend to have most of your holidays. Whereas if you own your 4 weeks in Italy, you have the 4 weeks, you're free to go and have other holidays anywhere else without feeling like you've got to be going back, because you're going to use the 4 weeks and max out what you've got there.
Good point, Richard.
Just by default.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a very good point. You're introducing more flexibility into your lifestyle choice. And interestingly, you've got more spare cash to have that flexibility. Yeah. You haven't spent it all on buying a property in one place.
Yeah. Let's talk a bit about the actual management. As I understand it, you guys at Pinelli Group manage the properties, so the maintenance and the running of it. How does all that work?
Okay. A separate company that is an Italian company called Pinelli Property Management, and that's standalone. That's not connected to the Pinelli Group apart from name. That is based in Campania, and the property management team are no more than 5 or 10 minutes away from any one of our properties. It's their job to look after the property for 365 days of the year, and they are responsible for the gardening, the cleaning of the swimming pool, the management of the heating of the swimming pool, the laundry, the decorating, the gardening, everything, including the payment of all of the bills, all of the utility bills, the insurance bills, the local taxes, whatever needs paying, they look after it. And every year in January, well, it's decided in December, it starts in January, there is a property management agreement between the Italian property management company and each individual owner. The most expensive property we have is a 5-bedroom property with a heated infinity pool that's around 250 square meters in 20,000 square meters of land. The individual annual maintenance cost of that property for 2025 is just under 6,000 euros for the year for each person. On a 1-bedroom apartment, around 1,500 euros. So it's the annual contribution to the running costs is specific to the size of the property, and in essence, you only pay for what you use. Whereas if you own a property outright, whether you're there or not, you've still got to pay all the bills. Yeah,
but you're also getting the actual changeovers and if you own a property, you turn up to it unless you've paid someone to open it up for you, change the beds, stock the fridge, do all those things. You have to pay for that if you own a property, but you're getting that as part of the service. So they're keeping the place running effectively, and that's in the cost, is it? And you could just turn up as a
Sure, we just say to owners, all you got to remember is your swimming costume and your key. And in fact, even if the owners forget to bring their key, our management team will meet you when you arrive. They'll say goodbye to you when you leave. We're not a hotel concierge service, but we do want to give real full enterprise enjoyment to our owners. So if you are coming in on a late flight and you say, I'll be too tired, I can't be bothered to go to the supermarket, send us your shopping list, and one of our team will go and do your shopping for you and stock the fridge up. We have a program of weekly cleaning and weekly linen and laundry towel changes. If you want it doing more often, then we can arrange for it to be done more often. If you want a private chef, we can arrange for a private chef. If you want somebody to book restaurants for you or find a car rental, they're there not just to manage the property. They're there to make sure your time is enjoyable as property and take away as many of the what ifs. We like our property management team to say to our owners, the answer is yes. Now, what's the question?
Very good. Got another question. I'm conscious of the time, but we've got another couple of minutes because I just want to ask you a few other things. But very good question, actually. If you own a share in one of the properties, is it transferable to another one? Can you use it in another one of the properties, or are they only specific to the property that you bought the share in?
Interesting.
I know some other schemes. Yeah.
Interesting question. And what I'm about to say has got caveats to it. We are about to establish a Pinelli operation in Murcia in Spain and in the island of Vis in Croatia. As those companies start to bring properties to the market, we will be introducing what we call the Pinelli Exchange program, and on a like for like. So if you own an apartment, don't expect to exchange your weekend apartment for a week in a luxury villa. That's a tad unfair. And we don't want to get to this ridiculous points and keys and all of that malarkey that some companies do. But if you, Richard, own a property in Casa Tremonti, a 5-bedroom villa in Italy, and I own a similar property in Croatia, and we want to exchange our weeks because we both fancy trying each other's country, our property management teams will help to facilitate that. So that answers that question. The other one, we've just had one of our owners that bought a share in one of our apartments 18 months ago. They came because they were invited by another owner to see one of our villas, Liz Guidoni from America. Once she saw the villa, she said, I wished I'd actually gone for a villa because I'm really enjoying the terrace and the pool. And we said, well, why don't you? We'll buy back your share. And if you just want to pay the difference, you can upgrade. So that facility is there. So yes, we can exchange weeks with other villas and properties. And very soon we hope to be able to exchange country by country, Spain, Croatia, possibly Portugal in the future as well.
Sounds exciting. You heard it here first. Look forward to hearing about the other countries. Yeah. So while we're talking about the properties, just outline how many in the portfolio, but also I'm assuming you've sold the shares in some of the properties, so they're not available, but you've got other ones available now. Just give an overview of the whole portfolio and the type of properties they are.
Sure. That breaks down into two distinct type of properties. In Agropoli in Campania, which sits, it's a little tiny seaside town, about 90 minutes south of Naples, 40 minutes south of Salerno, where the new Amalfi Salerno airport opened in July this year. We have a collection of 4 villas. They are on average 4-bedroom private villas, all sitting in their own private lands, all with heated infinity swimming pools. And they will start at around 192,500 a share, up to 225,000 a share. They are chosen for that good old Kirsty Field program, location, location, location. A lot of people say, oh, we love the villa, but we would really like it right on the beach. Trust me, you don't want a villa right on the beach because you will never get privacy and privacy. Most of our properties sit at least 200 meters above sea level. And when I look for new properties, the estate agents in Italy say, why is that important? I said, well, you're Italian. You should know Italy is 48% mountains. Why wouldn't you want to be at 200 meters above sea level and enjoy the view? So our villas will require a car to get you from the villa to the centre of town or to the beaches or to go and explore the mountains. If not, you can use the local taxi service. So that's group one. Group two would be for people who aren't so much interested in lazing around a pool and enjoying just doing nothing. They're ones that actually want to get into and be part of Italian society and Italian life. And we have a palazzo in a town called Campania with a GNA on the end rather than Campania, the region, with an NIA on the end. It's a 500-year-old palazzo. It's divided into 4 individual luxury apartments, starting at a 1-bedroom apartment of 46,300 up to a duplex 3-bedroom penthouse that will be released next year, and that's probably going to be around 75,000 a share. And as I said, we say to some people, if you're really unsure and you don't know which one you have, start at the bottom and work your way up. Go into the palazzo apartment. And if you really don't see the benefit of a terraces and a pool, or that's not your thing, you're happy. And if in the future your family expands or what your circumstances change and you want to trade up, then you can. So we kind of have had properties to suit all pockets or budgets and people's hopes, dreams and aspirations.
And how many actual shares do you have available at the moment? In total, like across all the properties?
We have, it's shares property. We've got from Vecchio Masseria, which is just about to be launched to the market. There's 12 shares in that one. Casa Tremonti, sadly, is fully sold out. The 2-bedroom apartment at Palazzo Maratea, there are only 5 shares out of 12 left in that. There are 8 left in Palazzo Maratea too. There's a few to be got at, but the marketplace is accelerating, and the process is we always try to say to people, why don't you try before you buy? Once people understand the legal structure and the commercial side of it, they understand what the legal documents are, they understand what the share price is, and we can work with them to find something to suit their budget. Sometimes the unanswered question that we have to sort of push people to think about is, if you like the price and you like the concept and you like Italy, the most important question is you've got to imagine how you're going to enjoy that property for a very long period of time with your family and your friends and your kids or your sister and your brother and stuff like that. So we have a thing called a Pinelli Discovery Visit where people can come and spend 3 days, 3 nights with us. We'll pick you up at Naples or Salerno Airport and not spend time at the property so much as spending time getting to know the region and what there is to do, whether it's stuff to do with your kids or whether it should be looking into culture, history, food, of course, very important in Italy, or whether you prefer the mountains to the coast. We'd sort of work on a preference list and say, okay, we kind of know, if it was you, Richard, we'd say, right, we were speaking before that we know you've got teenage kids, maybe more than one at college. You need to know, is there something for her to do? Is there something for you and your wife to do? Do you like horse riding? Do you like boating? Do you like white water rafting? Do you like skiing? What is it you really is your hot button? And we'll tailor the discovery visit around that just to give you a window into how you think you can enjoy it in the future. And at the moment, those discovery visits until the end of January, €199 for 2 adults, 2 children's for 3 days, and just your flights on top. So it's a good way of sticking your toe in the water.
Absolutely. We're over time. I want to ask you one final thing, if I can. I think I read this on your website. Visas, getting a visa to go to Italy, the investor visa. Am I right in saying that if you buy a share and it's a qualifying value, it can be used as part of an investor visa application?
Is
that something I read?
Yeah, it can be, but maybe you don't need a visa because as a non-European, I'm lucky that we got our residency before Brexit and everything changed. But Richard, if you or any of your guys watching are UK citizens or non-Europeans, you can spend a maximum of 90 days in any 180 days which is kind of 6
Yeah.
months a year, without the need of a visa. So if you buy a share in the Pinelli property, that's only 4 weeks. You've got plenty of time. You don't need a visa. But
if you wanted to come and live, yeah,
you can. It could be part of an investor visa process, but the minimum financial qualification on that at the moment, I believe, is 250,000. So a fractional share is well below that investment criteria, and because even if you were to buy 3 shares or 2 shares in a villa is 400,000, and that's 8 weeks a year. You don't need a visa. So you just need to think about how many weeks a year you're spending in Europe as a whole and at what time.
Yeah.
And providing it's not more than 90 continuous days in any 180, you should be all right without worrying about a visa.
Okay. Right. We're 10 minutes over. We could talk for longer. There's other stuff, but obviously people can come to you direct, come via your overseas home. Question just popped up. Let's deal with that before we go. Please provide marketing and pricing information. That's something you have to go to Nigel directly after the broadcast for that type of information. That is
personally, would they have, Richard, how will they access either the Pinelli Group website or my personal, my business email address, if you can make that available?
We've got everyone who's registered for this, we've got their details at your overseas home anyway, so we can contact them afterwards with the details.
And please
so
give me the email address. I'll be happy to answer any questions that come up, even after this is finished or after people see the recording.
Absolutely. No, we'll make sure that we connect people. So thank you very much, Nigel, for giving up your time. It's been, I found it very interesting. Good luck with everything, and hopefully we'll do this again. Good luck with the new projects as well. Hopefully, if we do this again, you'll be able to tell us more about Spain and Croatia, maybe Portugal as well. Thank you for everyone who's tuned in and listened to this, or if you're listening to the recorded version, I hope it's been useful. Send it on to friends, family, anyone else you think might find it useful. And a final request from us at your overseas home, if you have found it useful and you've enjoyed it, please go to the review website, Trustpilot, and say some nice words about us. Otherwise, that's it from me. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Good night, and thank you. Thank you, Nigel.
Arrivederci.
Bye-bye.